Okay, so we're doing the electric canners tonight, and I wanted to do a size comparison between the two. So I'm going to step back a little bit just so you can see them side by side. The one over here, this is the Presto 12 quart digital canner, and then this is the Carey. It is also may have a brand name of Nesco because Nesco bought Carey out. So these are the two electric canners that are widely popular and widely used. So we are going to use both of them tonight. So just wanted everybody to see them side by side so you can kind of get an idea of the size difference. The Presto has slightly bigger capacity. I don't know exactly what the capacity difference is right now. I can't remember, but I will.
So we're going to can onions tonight. This is just me filling the jars and cleaning them. This is where I actually start wiping the rims of each jar down using vinegar to do that, to make sure that there's nothing that's going to come between the flat and the lid of the jar.
So when you go to put these lids on, you can hold it like that until you get it going. Once you get it like this, you want it to spin freely. You don't want it to, you do not want to hold it and tighten it too much. Okay. You want it to spin freely. You want it to spin. You want it to spin freely. Once you get it going and start going, spin. Yeah, you don't tighten it down. And we talked about this last time. You have to be able to allow air to escape. So once there's a pressure differential, you have low pressure inside, high pressure outside, it will push down on that lid, but then the air, the extra air will escape, and that will suck that lid down on there. But in the meantime, while it's processing and while it's doing everything, it needs to have the ability to be able to lift that lid up a little bit so that air can escape. Okay. I'm just going to cover this up and then you guys make sure that we don't get hurt. Here.
What's that handle?
Alrighty. Okay.
You just keep it on there.
You do. It makes it easier.
So now I won't get in my hair.
I don't even know how many jars I can. These I can double stack because they are so tiny. So I know that. So I wasn't really worried about how many I did.
Can you use a regular pressure cooker to can?
No, you cannot. And the reason for that is, now I say no. Some people do that. I would never do it. And the reason is because now with if you're water bath canning, yes, you can do that. Or if you're steam canning, you can do that. The reason I would not is because the pressure gauge is not calibrated down to the nth that the pressure canners are.
Okay.
And so it may say that it's at 10 pounds of pressure, but really you don't know that it is at 10 pounds of pressure.
Okay.
So it's just, it's cooking food. It's not meant for canning, so they're not worried about it being super, super precise.
Right.
The vinegar.
Yeah.
It's strong.
Some strong stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
I take her place, yes. You can't this. That's my best impression.
You're a mess. This little girl's my helper. She helps me do so much. She's gonna be a big cook one of these days. I'm so excited about that. Okay, the fun stuff.
Chef.
The fun stuff.
Okay.
Uh-oh, I guess I need to do ready to go.
That's fun.
I think so. I think it's lots of fun. This is my favorite part.
First time really coming here to help, so.
Okay. Now, I'm going to get mine going first because I know what I'm doing with mine. And then, because Stephanie's, the Presto, I don't know as much about. Because, like I said, I've only used it one time. And it was not Stephanie's. I used it with my sister's. Okay. I did upload a video on using this one. So if you get this one, you can go back and watch my video. That might help. I've got to put water in this one. Use 8 cups of water in this one. And very important that you keep the bottom of it. It's like using a pressure iPod or any of those. You want to make sure that you don't have any water on the bottom side of it. You don't want water to get on your heating element.
Okay.
So that matters.
The videos, are they on the group things in the group on First Church groups or?
I'm having some.
It doesn't matter what the temperature of water is to begin with, right?
No, no. It doesn't matter. But this is the same principle of like cold water, cold jars, cold food.
Right.
So, but this is basically room temperature, which is what those are.
I don't want vinegar.
Now this is dry on the bottom because I set it up on top.
So
All right.
when you put cold water in there for cold canning, it doesn't heat up, it just cans it?
No, it's going to heat up.
Oh, is it?
Everything's going to get very
Okay.
hot. That's the whole principle of canning is it gets to 240 degrees inside. That's the reason you have to have pressure in order for it to get to 240 degrees because it will not do that.
You start with the water cold first, is cold canning?
I do if it's no. That's just how you do it. If it's going to be if you're going to have cold food, like if you're pulling food out of your refrigerator and sitting it on your counter and letting it come to room temperature, then you're going to have cold jars, cold food, cold canner. Start everything cold.
Okay.
And then if you're freshly making like this taco soup, if I was going to can that, I'm going to heat my jars up first. So the Presto, this one actually has a jar heating function, which we're going to bypass tonight because we're not going to use that. But it has a jar heating function, and I only know that because my sister's yet. So we'll figure that out in a minute. Okay, so I have this ready. All canners have to have a rack in there, and I'm not worried about this water. This water does not. I can touch
I
it.
can
In other words,
see it in
I can
the
touch
camera.
it because I'm not going to be like eating it.
Okay.
So this, you have to have a rack inside your canner. Your cans cannot, your jars cannot sit on the bottom ever, or they will crack. So start putting these in. And your jars can touch each other.
And you said it was 8 cups of water. Is that for this specific
For
size
this specific,
jars?
for the Carey, Nesco uses 8 cups of water. And there are little marks on the side. If you get a Presto, it's different. It also has a demarcations on the inside. You can see it.
But it doesn't change based on the
No.
recipe and the jar size
No,
of the jar.
the only
Okay.
thing that would change is whether or not if you're canning it a different way. Like if you're using water bath canning or if you're using steam canning, those are different. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these little jars in here, and we are good with that. Okay, so now for my canning, I use vinegar. I don't know that you have to, but I'm gonna do it just because it's what I'm used to. No big deal. You don't have to.
So
All right.
what is the level of the water? Where,
8 quarts.
What is what?
if you stack it up together, the jar, where is the level of that water?
We don't worry about where the level of the water is. I just put in 8 cups to begin with, and that's all you need to do pressure canning. You don't care where it comes up high. Now, if I had big jars in here, they would come up higher because those bigger jars are going to displace more of it.
Right.
But it's not that big of a deal. Now, I just realized that I use this size, so I actually cannot double stack in here. You see, they're too tall. But I probably could in here, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to need to.
But you don't want to.
But I have smaller jars. I can double stack.
Was that about a tablespoon of vinegar?
Yeah, about a fourth of a cup is what's recommended for the big ones. For something like this, yeah, just a couple tablespoons, a tablespoon or 2. Yeah, it's fine.
But you don't want too little water because it will dry it
too
out.
little water, it will dry it out. Exactly. And I did that with one of my stovetop ones one time, and it warped the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So you don't want that to happen because those are expensive. So fortunately, it was a Presto, and Presto was very kind to me and replaced it. So okay, so when you go to do this one, there are, I'll point this way so they can see. There are all these buttons here. You basically ignore all those buttons and you do nothing but press this high button, okay? This only button you will ever use for pressure canning is this high button right here. So if you're using a Carey, press high. Now, this is onions. This is not anything super complicated. So we're gonna do for like 25 minutes. So I'm just gonna add the time. I'm sorry, this is super loud. Super, super loud. Oops, too much. Yeah, it's super loud. And then I'm gonna hit start. And then we'll talk about the venting. And then it's gonna start doing the little circle thing until it,
Circle, circle, circle.
yeah, it circles for a long time. If you watch the other video, it'll explain all that. Okay, so this is the deal. This valve is very tricky, and Holly, you will see this once you play with yours. It's hard to tell if it's exhaust or if it's airtight. Airtight is down, okay? When you have it on exhaust, it lifts it up a little bit, and you can feel that. If you guys want to feel that, feel free, but you can see what it's doing. You can see how it's kind of, and it's a very loosey feeling, right? It comes with 2 different ones. It comes with a black one or a green one. The green one is for higher altitudes, like above 3,000 feet. We are not above 3,000 feet. You do not need that one. If you're in higher altitudes, though, like up, Asheville, anywhere like that, you'll have to use the green one that comes with it. I do have my green one. I've never used it. There's no need to. So for right now, we're going to put this on exhaust, which makes it feel weird. It's kind of sitting wampered. That's what I call it, wampered. Weird. It's weird. Anyway, so I want it to be up a little bit. All right. So this is going to, once it seals, this little valve back here is going to pop up, and you'll be able to see it up close. And this thing will count down. And once it gets down 10 minutes with it venting really good, it'll beep. And then once it beeps 3 times, then I'll turn it to airtight. Once I turn it to airtight, it will continue to vent. We're not worried about that. It will continue to vent. That's what it's supposed to do. It's what it's designed to do. And then once it gets to perfect pressure inside, then it'll start counting down. So this is done. I did lock it, didn't I? I did lock it. All right, now this one. I gotta read this. I gotta read about this one because I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, this one does have this little valve over here that you have to turn this way, unlock it, and then you lift it and raise that. Then you can take the lid off. This one comes completely off. This one, I don't recommend you can take it off, but I don't recommend that you do it because it is a pain to get back on there. I took it off one time and I was going online. I was reading the manual. I finally went on one of my Facebook groups. I'm like, how do I get the lid back on this thing? And they're like, please don't ever take the lid off. It's a pain. Some people take them off because they get really good at it and they're like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm like, you're not using anything in there but water and vinegar. I do not need to take the lid off to wash this thing. It's fine. So I quit doing that. So same thing, comes with a ring. You have to have this one.
Yes.
I did, when I got in here and looked at this, hers was, because this is brand new, she's never used it before.
See that?
It's almost flattened on the inside, and it is, it's
Styrofoam's
kind
still
of,
there.
yeah, I'll get the styrofoam out. It's kind of touching right here, and I didn't like that. So I looked at this and it looked like it had been bent a little bit. So I kind of bent it up a little bit to kind of give it a little bit of, make sure my jars are not touching the bottom, because you don't want your jars to touch on the bottom of this because they're going to get thermal shock otherwise. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a little mark in there telling you how high to go in the water. So it's actually,
Okay.
so no
That's
matter, yeah,
That's
No
it.
matter
that's it.
what you,
It does not matter what you're doing. If you're pressure canning, that's gonna be your mark.
oh,
It tells you it's like 3 quarts or something, but it's in the book. It tells you how much it is. But I don't care about that, obviously, because I'm just gonna use the water line to know. We'll wipe this out because it's still got styrofoam in it. Now, they recommend that you thoroughly wash everything before you use it. I am not washing it.
It's on
I'm not
water,
washing
you
it.
know.
If I
It's
were
gonna burn the
using it to
bacteria,
cook with, I would
Yeah.
absolutely wash
Yeah.
everything. But for something like this, I don't worry about it.
It's still,
Like I said, it's gonna be in the outside of my jars only, not the inside of my jars. And it's only gonna be water and vinegar that touch it. So I'm good with that.
literally like a big
As if I need a new toy. I think I do though.
That's what I'm getting for Christmas. I think I called my husband on the way home and told him what I was getting for
I
Christmas.
have all the kitchen gadgets.
how much it's gone.
Well, this one is 150th. The Presto.
Is this the one right here?
Pressure canner. Where is that? What website is that?
Right.
It's from Offer Up.
Oh, okay,
I
that's
see.
why. That's
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of like do it at your own risk.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you can get it for that, dude, yeah,
But
that's
probably
amazing.
Yeah.
$500 there.
Yeah, it
It's,
says 350.
yeah, that's about right. 350 is about what they're running right now. I think I don't remember what Stephanie paid for this one. I think when I got my sister hers like 2 years ago, it was not near that much. It was not even close to that much. It's kind of
Yeah.
shocking the difference. But they go up so fast in price. And once people found out about this one, they were super excited about it because it's Presto. So
Yeah.
it made people feel secure because Presto is the known brand for long time canning for most people in the industry. Now, if you are can afford it and you're a big heavy duty and you're good with stovetop, All American is like the Cadillac one, which I have an All American, so don't judge me. But so that is like the Cadillac one, and that's the one actually I use most of the time because it's so stable, so easy to use. Did I see more styrofoam? I promised I got all the styrofoam out, but I didn't.
I think I saw one now, the Instapot now.
Yeah, here's
Um,
one. It's the pot.
Yeah, Instapot is supposed to have one that you can can with, but I don't think it's pressure canning.
It says pressure can.
They have a new one.
But it does everything.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
I
like,
haven't really researched them because obviously I don't need it.
Pressure
Okay,
cookers.
so now with this one, guys, notice how many jars I have in here. The problem with pressure canners is because it depends on it coming up to a certain amount of pressure inside. You have to have a certain amount of jars in there as well because that empty space needs to be filled and it helps it to come up to pressure faster and it helps it to be equalized. So because I don't have enough jars in here, I'm going to do something that you can do that I have done several times. Let me show you. Hang on.
Some regular jars.
Now,
Yep.
I don't want to waste my lids because lids are a precious commodity, as you well know. So I use plain water, room temperature.
So lids are one-time use only?
These kind are supposed to be. They're supposed to be one-time use only. However, I saved most of them, and what you can do is you can reuse them. Like if I've used them for a pressure canning process, and it's a long pressure canning process, I'm not going to reuse it for anything except maybe to vacuum seal something. I'm probably not going to pressure can anything with it. But now if it's a short water bath, I might reuse it to do another water bath or something. But I always try to mark what I used them for so I know. But you can always vacuum seal with it. So that is something you can do. Just use extra jars, empty. I mean, with water in it, but with no lid on it. And it's not going to hurt anything. And this water, if it comes out, so what? You don't care. It's not going to matter. It's water. So that's, okay. Same thing I did with the other one. A little vinegar. A little splash. All right, now from here on, I'm gonna have to read the manual because I don't remember. But I am not intimidated by manuals. It's how I learn. I know I need to put that down. I know I need to lock it. All right, let's see what we do next. For quarts, you can do 5 regular mouth quarts or 4 wide mouth quarts. And that is the same as mine, actually. Like Carey, you could do the same thing. You can't do 5 regular mouth, but you can do 4 wide mouth or regular mouth in mine. Pints, you can do 8 regular mouth or 7 wide mouth. For half pints, you can do 10 regular mouth or 14 wide mouth. So you would stack them.
Can you do the big jars?
Big as in bigger than a quart?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And the only thing you're supposed to use those for ever for canning is like the ones I have the cereal in. Those are actually supposed to be, you can use those for like juice.
Okay.
Broth, things like that, things that are super, super thin. And that's because it's so hard to penetrate to get into that jar and get it to high enough temperature. Now, that being said, if you want to water bath you have a pot tall enough and you want to water bath something for like 4 hours, you go for it, knock yourself out. I am not going to stand over a stove for 4 hours and water bath something that big. I'm just not going to do it. It's just, I don't have enough patience for that.
Do you have a preference on the type of canning? Like you're mentioning pressure versus water bath?
It depends on what kind of food you're doing. And I kind of did you didn't watch the video, you said? No, because you just added to the group. That's why. Okay, so if you watch the first video, and I'll make sure I send that to you.
Okay.
It depends on the acidity of the food. If you've got something that's got a low acidity, then you can water bath it. And water bathing is usually like 15-20 minutes. They're super, super fast. But pressure canning is going to be your longer times. It's going to be your 90 minutes, those type things, hour long. And those are for your non-acidic foods. It's like potatoes, for example. It's one that people pressure can a lot. But you cannot water bath potatoes unless you do a 3-hour water bath.
I see.
You can do a long, long water bath, but like I told them this last week too, in the United States that is not recommended, simply because we have pressure canners. They say please don't do that anymore. But in other countries it's very, very common, and actually a lot of people in the United States still do it because they don't want to fool with pressure canner. They're nervous about them. It makes them like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do a 3-hour water bath. And so they do that. So we will talk about water bath. And we'll do all that probably next time we meet. Like I said, it depends on Diane's schedule, and I got to get with her. Okay, let me see. I don't want to. I skipped the can warming phase because I don't want to do that. I think it's skipping that. So now I think it's just heating up.
Okay.
So once it gets hot inside, it will beep at me again, and then I'll put the regulator on and put it on can. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Can I proceed to the vent? The venting timer will begin counting down. And heat, yes. And then during the venting, air steam will release from the vent pipe and air vent cover will lock. This will be noticeable. Throughout the venting and canning phases, you will hear boiling. Okay, depending on the number and size of jars, the air vent cover lock will be lift during canning. That's this little thing right here. The smaller the load, the more likely the air vent cover lock will lift. When the time expires, the unit will start beeping. Put regulator on will light up. I didn't put time in though. When am I supposed to enter the time? Was I supposed to do it with this? I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Did you have to put a time in this? You just
Yeah.
put high or low?
You push high and then you push your time.
Oh, okay.
That one's super easy. This one is too. I just remember it was. What's the pressure? Okay, so they're both just heating up right now. Is all that's happening. I'm just trying.
Is this a lot smaller than that, or not really?
It is somewhat smaller. That's what we're talking about. Like you can do 4-quart jars in here, and you can do 5 in here as long as they're regular mouth. Was that what I said? Regular mouth, I think.
Like the smaller mouth or the
the
big
smaller mouth.
Okay.
Wide mouth is the other one.
So not much more, and this is probably easier
So this one.
to carry.
There's your difference right there. The
Okay.
regular mouth, you can do 5 in here. You can only do 4 in here.
Oh, okay.
But you can do 4 in both of them at the wide mouth.
Okay.
And then when it goes to pints and half pints, there's not a huge difference. I think you could stack the half pints in here, but you can't stack half pints in
Okay,
here.
because this is taller.
And yeah, this is taller. So this was a much heavier unit. So I'm not really sure what the big difference is other than that one jar. That's the biggest difference, which a lot of people really like. But you remember the big ones, you can do 7 pint jars, quart jars.
Have they seen that?
I'm gonna pull those out. Okay, I'm gonna let these go for a few minutes because they've got to warm up.
Okay.
So this one's ready.
But yeah, it just takes a really long time to do it. So, all right. Fill jars. They're already filled. Okay, thank you. Now can we skip that? Heat. Woohoo! All right. There we go. We skipped the fill jar. When it pops up, it'll say fill jars.
Did I know?
It's fine. No worries. It heats a little bit, Stephanie. It'll say like heating over here under pressure can. It's not this heating. It's a different one. And that just means that it's like the temperature's coming up in there.
Okay.
Then it'll go fill jars because you're supposed to technically leave your jars in there and let them get warm.
This means fill jars? Is that-
No, it says it on there, right there where it says heat, it says fill jars. So, but if you have not had your jars in there heating already, and like if you're doing, like you remember when we did the spaghetti sauce, we did hot food, hot jars, we pulled them straight out of the dishwasher, they were already hot and we filled them right then. So our food was hot, everything was hot. We didn't need it to heat our jars for us. So you can literally hit the arrow and it will skip past that heat jar thing, and it'll go straight to this. So what it's doing right now is it's bringing this up to temperature inside. Once it gets up to temperature, it'll start a 10-minute countdown where it's doing that venting. You remember how on the stovetop it has to vent for 10 minutes? Like a really pretty venting stream.
So when did you so you can put the cans in from the very beginning?
From the very beginning. You don't have to go through the heat jar phase or fill jar phase. You can just skip those.
At any time? Okay.
You just skip those. So that's what I did. I skipped them because we put our jars in from the beginning. I literally filled it up with water, put them in there.
Okay.
So it's not, we didn't do all that. So that's basically where we are. We're just waiting for the temperature to come up on the inside. And this one says it's going to start being able to can in 7 minutes. It's not. It's faking us out. It always fakes you out. Y'all hear me? The Presto's going to, the Carey's going to fake you out. I'm doing that because a lot of people are getting that one because it's cheaper. And it's a great unit, especially if you're doing a lot of like leftovers, which that's what I use it for most of the time. If I'm doing big canning, I use these things. But if I'm doing leftovers, I'll use this one because it's so much easier to just, especially if I've cooked late and I don't want to have to babysit it. I'm tired. Set it and go. Yours too. You can just set it. Once it's done, once it gets past this initial heat up phase and the first thing, you can just walk away from it. You don't have to think about it again.
And even just leave it overnight?
Yes. They don't recommend that you leave them overnight just simply because the process of the food being in, especially like if the water ends up coming up high on the jars, they say, get it out at some point. If you want to leave in there 2 or 3 hours, you can. I have left mine in there all night long and they're fine. Just open it the next morning, it's fine. But the biggest thing with any canning is when you go to open a lid, open it away from you. Now it's kind of hard to do with these because this one only opens one way. So you're gonna have to open it towards you. So keep in mind, this is why I wear big time gloves. I wear gloves that come all the way up to here when I can, and I turn my face away and I lift, okay? Because that steam is really hot. It's not even like average stovetop steam, it's super hot. So when it is done completely canning, this is stovetop or electric, don't do anything with it. You walk away from it. You don't try to cool it off faster. You don't try to turn anything. You leave it alone. And if you will leave it sitting there for a good hour, at least, it's hard. I know it's hard. You're impatient. You want to do things with it. Don't do it. Just walk away and leave it. After an hour, come back and check and make sure that this little valve thing, which is on all of them, has dropped back down. Once it drops back down, then you can release the pressure on it. Then you turn this valve or that valve and make sure that it is completely not making any noise. It's not hissing at you or nothing. If it's hissing at you, walk away again. Walk away for another 30 minutes, okay? You don't want it to have any pressure in there. And then when you do go, especially if you're doing it fairly sequentially, like an hour, 30 minutes, whatever, you do go to open it and check it then. Open it, crack it, and leave it cracked. Like a lot of people will take a wooden spoon, which I have down there, and they will just stick it in the edge of it and just crack it there and hold it for like 10 minutes and let it vent. And the reason for that is siphoning. Siphoning is a huge, huge issue. When you get a jar out, and this happens, headspace is a big deal with the siphoning. And also it depends on what your product is. Apples, for some reason, apples and applesauce will tend to siphon because it gets super overheated. I don't know what the deal is with the syrup, but it tends to siphon a lot. So you have to be really cognizant of how hot it is coming out of the pot, and give it time to kind of equalize with the outside temperature, some equalize the pressure. You don't want to just be yanking jars out of there immediately, because then you're going to end up with it, it's going to kind of bubble out, and it's not going to seal for one thing, and then you're going to lose half your product out on your dish towel.
So it seals after it's done?
Yes, it does. It seals it, and you will literally take things out of the canner, sit them on your counter on top of something, because again, you're going to get thermal shock if you try to take them straight out and set them on a cold counter because they're too hot. So you're going to sit them on a dish towel, and then you leave it there for 24 hours. You do not touch them, you do not fool with them, you don't move them around, you take them out, you set them there, and you leave them for 24 hours. After the 24 hours, which actually you can do it sooner than that, but you definitely leave them there for at least 12 hours, you don't fool with them. You come back and you check your seals, and you can tell if they're sealed or not, and I'll show you guys the difference. If we get these out of here before we're done tonight, I'll show you guys the difference in sealed and not sealed. You'll be able to see it. Some of them you'll be able to hear them sealing as it's going. They're like pop, pop, pop. You can kind of hear it, and that's great. It makes you feel reassured. But you can also tell if you don't get a pop, if you don't get like that strong, kind of sound, you can still tell if they're sealed or not.
I have a question. Can I just leave them in there for 24 hours or no?
You can. They don't recommend it, and I don't really even know like what the big deal is. But I always make sure I unplug these because they are electric. There's a lot going on here. So you definitely want to unplug them as soon as possible. The Carey, in 2020, there were a lot of issues with people having like some kind of fuse burning out in it. And they're apparently really easy to replace. And a lot of people just went and bought an extra fuse, and I did too. I think it's in that drawer over there somewhere. But I never had any problem with mine. But a lot of people said, oh, my fuse went out, and they would replace it themselves because it's super easy to replace. So I have not done that, but I have enough confidence in myself that I could go on YouTube, watch the video. It said there's tons of videos on how to replace it, so it's easy to do.
I'm calling you.
Okay. Okay. I have confidence that we can figure out how to do it. They say it's easy though, so I think we could do it. But yeah. So it's super easy. I think both of them are really easy. This one's heating up. I can feel the heat coming off of it, and obviously that one is. So that one's been going longer. So this one says it will be done in 1 minute, and it will make all sorts of noises. But then it's going to go back to the circle. I can tell you that because that is not a clean enough stream coming out of there. It's got to be coming out pretty straight and hard. So I am fairly sure it's not going to be ready to.
Now, is this one where you said you were supposed to turn that thing at a certain point?
You are.
So we're waiting for it?
Yeah. Well, when it beeps at me 3 times, I will turn it.
Okay.
But you'll still see it coming out.
Okay.
So, and then I will use something else to turn it. I won't do it.
I did
You want
your
some
onion.
taco soup? No, taco soup. You want some?
It's delicious.
I know, remember? You made me a big pot with it.
Okay. So I'm going to do this real quick. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna, but then it'll start coming out. It'll start coming back out again. So don't think it's done. Don't be optimistic. It's not done. So y'all see how it's flashing right now? It's not started the actual countdown yet, and that's perfectly normal. It's supposed to do that.
So mine says heat, and it's still heating. Once
Yeah.
it goes, what will the next thing be?
I don't know. We'll figure it out though.
So these big canners over here, those are probably what you use those for then.
Do what?
Have you
These big ones in
seen?
the
Have you
area?
guys seen
Yeah.
all of her
Those are those
canning?
little- We
has
probably
a
use
lot.
I use like all the gumbo,
Yeah.
all that big stuff. If I am doing
We
something
did some
specifically
spaghetti
with
together,
I would do it.
taco
Or if I have at least
soup. What else did we do?
six-
But we did,
six-
like I made a whole bunch in my kitchen, brought it over, and then she did something, and then we put them
So like when
in
we got one
jars
just like,
and used,
you know,
I
like,
think we used
you know,
both
like-
of those. We might use
No.
this one. But I've used a lot of it up.
This is the one I
That's
use.
fine right there, right?
My son has Crohn's, so I want to learn how to do this so I can do it. Because then, like when he goes away, I can stock up his pantry with good stuff. And then, you know, he doesn't have to worry if he can't find stuff.
Carrots and cauliflower.
Yeah.
That's, you do that there too?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you were doing like a pickle blend,
Yes.
like a giardini area,
Yeah,
or
that's what I'm
how,
talking about,
what do you
yeah.
call it? Okay. Now, actually, I'm gonna give you guys your books. But there are recipes for all those.
So I do a lot of talking very loudly and very fast over the top of this video because there was a lot going on. And it got a little noisy with the phone being right beside the canner, so I apologize for that. But I'm gonna, if you notice, like I'm splicing some things out because there was a whole lot going on that you guys couldn't even see, and it was just kind of boring in my opinion. So if there's something you have questions about, just, you know, send me a message. You don't have to message in the group. You can private message me, however you want to do it. But I mean, the whole point of this is so you guys feel confident. And I did not go over the Presto, the Presto electric. I didn't go over that really good because I actually did it wrong the first time. And I ended up having to redo some stuff. I didn't put the time in. So you have to do the time from the very beginning, and I didn't do that. So if you have any questions about it, though, I can go over another section. I know that another session. I know a couple of people have the Presto. Obviously, my neighbor has it because that was hers we were using. Another friend of mine has it as well. She just got it. So if you have questions about that specific model, can definitely go over it with you now that I'm a little more comfortable. It's just been so long since I used my sister's, I couldn't remember. So please send me questions if you have any. I'll try to go through any other things in the video that I think may be relevant. But the biggest thing was in the Carey, you can hear it do a self-seal, which is when the little pressure valve actually comes up on its own. So it comes up and then it got real quiet. And then it starts getting louder again, and then it beeps and tells me to switch the valve, which I switched the pressure valve, which is it's different than the pressure, the little pressure button. Gosh, I get the names all mixed up. I'm sorry. But so then I switched that over to sealed, but then you'll notice steam does start coming out of that again. So it's because it's keeping that pressure regulated. And the way that it keeps it regulated without the pressure getting too high is steam does have to come out of it. So that is very, very normal. Obviously, steam can't build up in there because it would explode. So this is all electric, and it manages itself, and it does a great job. So any more questions about anything, just send me a message, and I'll get back with you. But if you want to listen to what's going on in the background, it does give you a lot of like little tidbits that I'm not comprehensive about. But hopefully that will make more sense. And if I may do another little informational video because there's so many little things that I left out about the process, and I apologize for that. But I will try to, I forget that people don't know little things like, you know, wiping your rims before you put your flats on there, how to clean your flats, not boil them. Don't ever boil your flats, which is the flat part of the lid. Don't do that. Not to over tighten your lids, to keep them really loose. Little things like that. I just need to go through, and spoilage, what flat sour is and what causes flat sour and how you avoid that and how you know your seals are good and just little things like that. So I'm probably gonna make a video of this like general stuff and at some point, and I'll upload that.
How do you know what to do?
That has meat in it, so anything with meat in it, and you'll see your pressure canning section is somewhere in there, and it'll tell you anything with meat in it. Just start looking at the recipes and see what's in them. You always want to can for the longest time ingredient.
Is meat
Okay.
going to be the longest item?
Yes. So your longest time ingredient in any of this stuff is going to be meat.
Okay.
So any meat is going to be 90 minutes quarts or 75 minutes time.
Okay.
Super simple, nothing to it. Seafood is the only exception to that, and you want to always like, it has to go through like, they do like a, what do you call the saltwater brining? You have to brine seafood, and it's like a, you know, it's different. If it's seafood, just make sure that you always find a recipe and follow it exactly, but
Don't go rogue.
no, don't go rogue on seafood.
How do you avoid, I remember you said something about this and we wondered if one of the spaghetti sauces were gonna taste a little burned.
Yeah,
I forget, how do you
yeah.
fix that? How does that happen?
So usually they don't taste burned, they taste fine if there's no issues. If you end up having a long heat up time for some reason, it took you forever to get them up and they end up processing for way longer than what you would think they would, or if you end up with a lid that doesn't seal and you have to reprocess it. Then you can kind of get that scorched taste. So I was explaining to them earlier. I have some soup in there, and I have scorched chicken soup on it. I have it all labeled. And I'm like, if I ever got in a bind and I was hungry, I would eat them. But in general, I'm just not going to eat them, and I certainly wouldn't give it to people.
Yeah.
But some things may get that kind of scorched taste to it if you over process it or you process it too long.
And that's in here.
That's in here. Even for like, and I think I might have said this before you got here too. In the United States, we only pressure can meat. We don't ever water bath meat. Anything low acid, we don't water bath it. However, in other countries, they do because they don't have pressure canners. So it's very, very common for them to water bath things. Anything with meat in it, in other countries, they water bath for 3 hours. Now, when I say water bath, it's like a full rolling boil for 3 hours. You keep a kettle of water going the whole time to top it back off because you got to have an inch above those jars for 3 hours. So it's very involved and you have to watch it very closely. And I have done it before, but it's very intensive and I get bored with it.
Yeah.
I would rather stick it in a pressure canner.
If I get bored, then I'm doing other things.
Exactly, and you forget you've got something on the stove. Exactly. So I don't do that much, but a lot of people do because they are scared of the pressure canners. They're terrified of them. I am not, because I didn't grow up in that era where things exploded and you had issues. Also, the new pressure canners, you almost never have a lid come off of one. If you do, it's because you slid it around the stove, you shook it, you ran water over it, dumb stuff that you're not supposed to do, that people are just doing without even really thinking about it. That's why I say walk away from it. You turn the burner off and you walk away from it. You get done with these, you unplug them and you walk away from it. You don't fool with them. You don't ever try to jiggle them. You don't try to speed the process up. It's not an Instapot, okay? If it's my Instapot, I will grab my dish towel, stick it on top of that valve and pop it off and let it vent into the dish towel. I do this. I don't recommend it, but I do it. Quick vent, you're supposed to do it. So I'm like, okay, but you never, ever, ever do that with a canner. First of all, your food's going to siphon out inside. It's going to go crazy, and it's going to bubble right out of those jars. You don't want that to happen because your pressure is going to equalize too fast. So, you need help, baby?
I got it.
Okay. Anybody else want anything to drink? Does everybody get
Why
something
is
to
it still heating? Does it really take that long to heat?
It's a big unit. That's why I put those extra jars in there.
Yeah, I didn't
because
see how many. Did
yeah.
you put 4 or 5?
I have the little, I don't know how many in the little jars.
4.
I put and then I put 3 extra bigger jars in there with no lids on them, just water in them.
Oh, okay.
To help it to come up to pressure. Because if you do less jars, it's going to take it longer to come up to pressure because it's not as full. So that's why I try to help it to. You see how it's doing? It's coming up. It's just not coming up as
So you
fast
take
as
that
it
off
goes.
to begin with. Wait, you had
Yeah,
that
it
on
just
at
popped
first,
up.
didn't you?
It popped up. That just popped up. So that's good.
Wait, the open popped up? Or this thing?
That little thing,
Oh, okay.
like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna.
So this is the water left in this canner after getting jars out. And this one has some color to it also, which means that the jar siphoned some. And they probably siphoned because I filled them so full. That's what I would tend to think happened, because they were really full. These are not as dark as my jars that I already have. One of the ways that you know that they're probably going to seal is they're still boiling inside. If you get a jar out and it's not boiling inside, of course sometimes you can't tell because if you dry pack them with no added liquid, sometimes there's not enough liquid in there for you to tell. But all of these are literally boiling. The exception is this puppy right here. I can't tell. I think it is actually, oh, it is still boiling inside. Okay, so it's gonna seal then. It just didn't have a lot of liquid, so I couldn't really tell at first. So all of these are boiling still inside, so they're gonna seal. I'm not even worried about it. And notice there's a big color difference between these I did in the past. These are a lot darker than the ones I did tonight. These will probably darken up more, but I also think I probably put less beef broth in these. I also don't know what kind of beef broth I used. The beef broth I used in these tonight was like a cooking broth. It was not just a straight beef broth. This might have been beef bone broth for all I know. I don't remember. It's been too long ago. I can't remember past a couple weeks when I do stuff if I don't write it down. So, yep. But anyway, they're all gonna seal. They look great. 13 little jars. So. And it was a success. Both of the canners. These are my jars that I had put water in to fill up the canner more. But yeah, there's a lot of siphoning in this one. And it's probably because I filled them so full. There was very little headspace left. So anyway. So here we are the next day. That one's too tight for me to just take it off with one hand. But in general, you can just screw these off with one hand. And they are all sealed. Oops, nope, I got one that's not sealed. Okay, I wonder if it's that one that I was worried about. I don't think so. I think that was this one. I thought this one was gonna seal, but it didn't. Okay, the rest of them. Feels like they did. But I'll double check them when I'm washing them, because they're kind of sticky today. So, but anyway, looking good. Got one that didn't seal. And that one, you would just stick it in your refrigerator. And if you decided you were gonna redo it, you could do that, but I probably wouldn't for one little tiny jar like that. But you could if you wanted to.
2 years ago, this dessert was made as an attempt to discover what was the true parameters, the real existential limits of ooey gooey butter cake as a long-term sugar support system for the future. 2 years ago.
Yes, that was 2
I'm
years
taking
ago.
the lid off. Taking my finger off.
Yeah, here.
Here. Like I said,
Get
we're taking
to
this
the
off.
spacey part. Not right there. There you go.
Okay.
Good pop.
Smell test. Delicious.
Smells delicious.
10
Microwave.
seconds. In here. Go.
Is it gonna rise?
Just want to know if I
See what
die
it
of
tastes?
ricin poisoning or some other random
What?
ricin.
Rice and poisoning?
Yes. This is why. Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. Test.
All right. See what it tastes like. See if it's like really dried out and nasty at this point. You actually had one like a year ago and you said it was still pretty good. Looks pretty good.
Is it so
The
good?
taste test.
It's not good at all.
It's terrible.
Y'all wouldn't like it either.
That's why you're walking away from me, hiding.
Y'all
It's
wouldn't
terrible.
like it. It tastes like it just was made.
Really?
It tastes that fresh. It tastes. I didn't expect it to. I thought it'd be dry. This tastes like it was made yesterday.
Wow. That's cool. Good to know. Ooey gooey butter cake from 2 years ago.
Whipped cream.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Which we do have, of course, because
I canned this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I canned this. I
Is it
labored.
still good?
you're very funny.
Yes. Oh. Oh, yes, Lord. I'm about having a religious experience right now.
All right.
That was a success. Good to know.